Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Now listen to me. Jody gets home, and his mom, she puts hands on him. She lets him know that she's not playing with him. She's not playing with him. Now, he's almost her same size, but she's seasoned in life. She got hands. And she let him know, you're not going to do this. You're not going to ruin your life. Not while you're in this house. And it hurts him because he knows that he's done wrong, but he didn't expect his mom to whoop him. He hadn't been whooped in years. But the person that he's become, she's not understanding why. She knows that it got something to do with his dad and not being there and all this and that, right? But she's still not going to let him ruin his life. He doesn't have the right to ruin his life because things are not working out between them two. She's not going. She's not going. So when Craig calls, she tells Craig to put his mom on the phone, or he can't talk to Jody. He puts his mom on the phone, and his mom, she's just as shocked as Jody's mom. She's just as shocked. And they talk for a little while, and they both agree that, you know, they love their sons, and both of them are headed down the wrong road, and that they need to do something about it. It's just that they both have jobs and they work, and it's not much that they can do. It's not much that they can do right now other than to, you know, make sure that they stay away from the streets and all these types of things, right? So they both decide to, you know, do a little investigating and see what's really going on. And one night, after a couple of weeks, Jody sneaks out of the house, and Craig's already out, but Jody sneaks out of the house, and they meet up at this spot on the block. And Jody and Craig's moms, they're in a car, and they're riding through. They're following them. What neither one of them understand is that their phones have a tracker on them now, and they're following them to see where they go and what they're doing. And when they see them up on the block and they're selling drugs, they don't even recognize their own kids. They don't recognize their own kids. They see two individuals acting like grown men doing things that they were not raised to do. So they pull up on them, and it freaks them out. And they make both of them get in the car, and they drive home. It was Craig's mom's car, so she drives Jody and his mom home, and then she goes home. But the whole time that they were in the car, they're yelling and screaming at him and shout. And Jody and Craig are sitting in the car. They don't know what to say. They're trying to figure out how did they know where they were at. So when they get home, both of them in separate places, they both get whipped, beat them. Both of them did the same thing too, as far as trying to call their dads and get their dads involved in what was going on, but they didn't want to hear. They did not care. They genuinely did not care about what was happening because they were no longer with their parents, so their mothers, so they didn't care what happened. They just walked away from their sons. So as time goes by, Jody doesn't want to stop, but Craig does. He gets himself together, right? He's starting to listen to his mom and all of the different things that his mom is telling, but Jody, he's not. See, it's one thing about when you get into the streets, right? When you first get into the streets, it's like, what kind of example can I use to make it make sense? It's kind of like that first time you smoke weed. If you like it, it's so good you don't want to stop. You can't even conceive of life without it. That's what the streets were to Jody. He really, really liked being in the streets. He didn't understand how dangerous it could be. He didn't understand the things that could happen to you and ruin your life. Now, Craig, on the other hand, he had seen a few things. He happened to not get caught up in them, other than him going to jail when they raided the house. He had been doing this for a few years, and nothing major like that had caught him up. Yeah, he had been up on the block when shots were fired and all this and that, but never ended up hurting him, getting hurt, or seeing anybody get hurt or anything like that. Yeah, some fights and stuff like that, but nothing so major that it would cause him to have to go to jail. But when he went to jail that night, he saw something that he didn't want to see. But Craig, it turned something on in him. It turned something on in him. And now, Jody, and I said Craig, but I meant Jody. Jody's trying to figure out why Craig don't want to live that life no more. Why he don't want to be out, why he don't want to sneak out and meet him and all this and that. And he starts to see Craig as somebody that's weak. He starts to see Craig as somebody that's weak. the person that taught him how to get down in the street, now he don't want to get down in the street. He must be scared of his mom. He must be. So Jody gets it in his head that he's going to help Craig. He gets it in his head that he's going to help Craig. Now listen to how this story takes a turn for the worse, y'all. You need to listen to this. Because this is how a juvenile mind thinks. So Jody goes by Craig's house. And he's sitting over and he's talking with Craig. And when Jody sees Craig's mom coming up the sidewalk, he tells Craig, he said, man, we finna take care of this. And you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do. We finna take care of this today. And Craig's looking at him like, what you talking about? What are you talking about? He said, man, your mom, she going to get right today. She going to get right today. Now, this juvenile mind is thinking that he's a man. So when she comes in the house, he starts screaming and yelling at her, why you won't let Craig come out no more? Why you doing this? You trying to keep us apart. His mind is gone. Craig is even scared of him. He's sitting there looking, thinking, what are you doing? Don't talk to my mama like that, right? Jody freaks out. He freaks all the way out, and he hits Craig. He pulls a pistol out of his pocket and slapped him with it. Hit him with the pistol, knocked Craig down to the ground. And then he points the pistol at Craig's mama. Craig, out of fear, I'm talking about out of utter fear that Jody was about to shoot his mama, he jumps up and he tackles Jody. And when he tackles Jody, the gun goes off and hits his mama, knocks her to the ground. And it scares Jody so much, he ain't never shot nobody. It scares him so much, he wrestles free from Craig and he runs out the house. And he's a kid, right? So see, when kids get in trouble, what do? They run home to their mama. So he runs home. And his mama's not there. She's at work. He ain't got nobody to comfort him. So he picks up the phone and he calls his dad and he tells his dad he needs to see him. And when his dad comes over, he comes in the house and he gets him a beer and he sits at the table. He said, what do you want to talk about? Like a man. And Jody tells me, he said, man, I just wanted to see you, man. I just want to, you know what I'm saying, hang out with you a little bit. He said, oh, okay. And then they up and they leave. And he ain't told his dad about nothing. He's just trying to be near an adult. That's what kids do. They want to be around an adult. Somebody's going to make them feel like it's okay. Right? And then, check this out. Craig's mom's at the hospital with Craig. And the police are asking her what happened. They asking Craig what happened. And Craig tells them. Says Jody, his friend, shot his mom. He came over and he was upset about something and he shot his mom. Luckily, it only hit her in the shoulder, but it's above the waist. What does that mean? Attempted murder. Yeah, if they want it to be. It can be manslaughter, but it can be, attempted manslaughter, aggravated assault. It can be attempted murder, though, because it's above the waist. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, they call his mama because Craig's mama had Jody's mama's number. So they call and they tell her what had happened. She freaks out. Can't believe it. So she hurries home and he's not there. So she makes a call to his dad and tells his dad that she needs to find Jody. And he says, he's with me. She said, what is he doing with you? And he tells her, he called me. He said he needed somebody to talk to. And then when I came by the house, he just said he wanted to hang out. So I took him with me and I was going to bring him back, when you get home. I just, kicking it with my son. And she said, well, it's a little too late for you to be concerned now. She said, the police are looking for him. And he said, for what? And she tells him that he shot somebody. And he goes straight into defense mode. He says, is it serious? She said, he shot somebody. It is serious. But they're okay. They're in the hospital. And he asks who was it. And she tells him that it was one of his friend's mother. Said that he went over to the house and he shot off on him, talking about why you won't let him hang out with me and all this and that. And then he shot the woman. So Jody's dad is sitting there talking to his mom, and Jody's right there. He don't know that they're talking about all of this and that. His dad is not letting on what's really going on, right? But Jody's hearing words here and there, and he's looking at his dad kind of strange, trying to figure like, are they talking about me? And then his dad just starts to stare at him. And he sees that jackrabbit in him. So he reaches his hands out, he grabs Jody by the wrist. He said, you ain't going nowhere. You want to be a man, you're going to face this like a man. So he tells Jody's mom, he said, look, I'm finna bring him home now. Don't call the police though. She said, they're probably on the way over here. They just called over here from the hospital. He said, well, I'm on my way. So he takes him to the house, and on the way to the house, he asked him what happened. And Jody don't even know how to explain what it was that he was feeling. He don't know how to explain those emotions that was all up in him, right? All he knows is he said he got mad because his friend couldn't hang out with him no more. And he starts to tell him all the different things that, you know, Craig had taught him and told him and made him feel like he was, you know what I'm saying, accepted and part of, you know what I'm saying, his family and all this and that. They were friends. And now he didn't have his friend around him, so he wanted to do something about it. He said he didn't mean to shoot him. He said he was falling down. Craig had tackled him and the gun went off. He said, that's what you need to tell the police. Tell them the truth. And his son was looking at him like, where have you been? You know, this person is giving me this advice. Where have you been? Why have you been in my life? And his dad knew exactly what he was feeling when he looked into his son's eyes because, you know, he had felt it too. So when the police got by the house, Jody was telling them what was going on and what happened and all this and that. And they had to take him into custody. They took him down, they booked him and all this and that. And then they released him back into his parents' custody. And when Craig's mom came home, they came by the house to visit. They were going to go to court with him. See what they were going to do, juvenile or adult court. So he explained to his mom, Craig's mom, what happened and what he was thinking and all this and that. And she understood. She understood. But she couldn't do anything about what the DA was going to do. She told the DA she didn't want to see him put away in no adult prison. And the DA took that into consideration and they charged him as a juvenile. And he had to go away for 9 months because they knew he didn't mean it. But while he was in there, they learned that he had some problems. He had problems. Why is that important? It's important because you got kids out here running up and down the street acting like they grown, thinking they know what's going on, but emotionally, they can't handle certain things. So they'll lash out and do all kinds of stuff, and then they'll end up in a situation they can't get out of. Luckily for Jody, that Craig's mama didn't die. Luckily for him, because he'd have been in here for the rest of his life. He'd have been in here for the rest of his life. Period. Now, when I got the opportunity to talk to him, unfortunately, he had been in and out of prison a couple of times. But that one time, he had the opportunity to turn his life around. But when he got out of juvenile, guess what? He wasn't the same person. He wasn't the same person. Yeah, they tried to help him in there, but he was separated from everybody. He was separated from his mama. He was separated from Craig. But he had to survive that environment. And while he was trying to survive that environment, he became a young criminal. He became a young criminal. And when you're a juvenile offender, you deceive yourself into thinking that you can handle what's going on. But see, those are still formative years. Those are still formative years. So him trying to survive juvenile at the same time was preparing him to become an adult criminal. Yeah, they made him go to school. They made him do programs and all this and that. But after 4:30, he had to fight. He had to scrap about food. He had to fight about people not wanting to let him use the phone. He had to become a grown-up real fast and figure it out. Nobody was coming to save him. Nobody was coming to save him. So the things that he learned in juvenile were things that prepared him when he came to prison. And when I was able to talk to him and other people were able to talk to him and he was telling this part of the story, it blew me away because I'm wondering how many other juveniles have been through what he went through. How many other juveniles didn't get the help that they needed, but people thought that by putting them in juvenile detention that they were going to get help. How many people thought that? Yeah, you got to do something. I mean, you can't just let them go free. He shot somebody. He shot somebody. But are we really helping the next generation become responsible citizens, or are we grooming the next generation to become the next generation of criminals? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Period. And we can't continue to leave it on the single parents that's at home. She's struggling, doing everything she can. We can't continue to blame them when we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times we don't even know what we're supposed to be doing. We don't even know. Because he told me that the relationship between him and his father now, it's good. His father has grown out of that immature mindset. He's working on a regular basis. He sends him money on a regular basis. He even comes to visit with his mother. They're not together, but they come to visit together. See, he's grown out of his nonsense, but as he was growing out of his nonsense, Jody was growing into his. See what I'm saying? You see how weird this stuff is? You know, we can mature and become better individuals, but while we're doing that, the individuals, the kids, the nieces and nephews that are looking up to us, they're seeing how we're acting in that moment and their pattern, their behavior after that. And when we grow out of that, they're growing into it. Tragedy. And we wonder why it happens. We wonder why it happens. So if you're in the middle of that right now, don't take for granted that somebody that is watching you, some child that is watching you, is not being influenced by you, and one day you're going to get it together. You're going to be just fine. You're going to have a job and a family and kids, and you're going to be going on. You're going to be teaching them the right thing. You're going to be living the right life. But the child that's watching you right now is going to be messed up. And they're going to do the same thing you did. They're going to get a certain age after they cause all kind of mayhem and destruction. They're going to get a certain age, and then they're going to grow out of it. But they're going to groom the next generation. And so on and so on and so on. When do we stop it? We have to stop believing that jail and prison is going to change it. We should not have to go through these things before we wake up. We should not have to. The very definition of being a wise person is being able to learn from other people's examples. You shouldn't have to go through it, because as you're going through it, somebody's watching. Whoa, wouldn't it be an amazing thing if they were watching you become a wise person? You feel me? Wouldn't it be an amazing thing if you taught them to, like, look, you see what he's going through? We're not going through that. Not me and you. We're going to go another direction. See what I'm saying? Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? We got to get to that, y'all. Because if we don't get to that, we're going to keep on over and over and over, generation after generation. Prison is going to be a part of our family tree. And that's not what I want. That's not what I want for you. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I'll say peace, y'all.